Doc, what do you do for thyroid problems? They're really common. You see them all the time. Now, one of my mentors taught me this years ago. Said, you know, you got almost 300 different types of glands in the human body, right? Almost 300 different types, yeah. He goes, you can go to an endocrinologist, sit them down, and he goes, most of them couldn't list more than 40, right? So you figure that they're the guys that specialize in this, and they couldn't list more than 40. So you start thinking about that, and all right, which ones could we all list? Thyroid, adrenals, ovaries, the gonads in the male, testes, right? Maybe the thymus is in there somewhere, pituitary gland if you know a little bit more. The ones that get problems. And so the doctor that was mentoring me years ago said, you know why they get problems? Because we know what they are. If we leave them alone, they'd function just fine. It's the 20 or 30 that we always mess with that get all the dysfunction. He goes, you very seldom hear of someone getting a problem in their Bartholomew's gland because nobody knows what it is. See, sometimes when you leave the body alone, it does really well. So thyroid is interesting. It's one that we have pushed and pushed and pushed. My God, I've got a thyroid problem. And the question becomes, how often when you think about it, does it start to manifest as a problem? So thoughts become things. A doctor wrote years ago a book, a very interesting book. Anything can cause anything. Anything can cause anything. He wasn't wrong.
No, he was not.
He literally was not wrong. Because, guys, your thoughts are energy. That's what they are. They're not tangible like these glasses, right? You can't hold them, but we know they're here. I can't hand Paulie a cup full of anger, right? But how do you know I'm angry?
Voice,
you see, right?
eyes,
Voice, inflection, physical appearance. Your sensory things pick up on my sensory things, and I get muscle contraction. So if you can look at muscle contraction in the body, you can tell an awful lot about what's going on inside. It's almost like we were designed that way. To be able to look at it and see, something's not right. I wonder. So we can look at these things. So when it comes to the thyroid, there's a couple simple things you want to focus on. What does it need for fuel? What does it make? And can it get rid of it? So the thyroid, guys, has to have calcium, magnesium, and iodine. You want to do a simple, old school thyroid kind of test. It's really an endocrine test. Get some iodine. Go to the CVS or whatever. Get that yellowy orange iodine. Don't get the clear. It doesn't work so well for this. Get the orange stuff. Find the inside of your elbow and paint a 1-inch square when you get up in the morning. Just paint it pretty good. Let it dry. It doesn't wash off. You all know that when you get iodine in your fingers, right? It's on there.
Takes forever.
And all you got to do is look down every hour the rest of the day. As a rule of thumb, it's supposed to stay, you're supposed to see it in some form or another 24 hours later. So just watch. If it's gone in 3, chances are good the body went and said, woo, I need that. Sucked it right on in. And that means that endocrine system is behind. It's an old test that's very, very valid. I sat with patients the other day, and they were, I was walking them through a way to fix something. And I don't know, it was an ache or pain or something, but I walked them through it, and they got off the table. I'm like, my God, I feel amazing. They go, how come everyone else doesn't do this? I said, well, I've spent my whole career studying other medical groups, especially indigenous medicine. Look at other cultures. What did they do when someone had this problem or that problem? By looking at these other cultures and exploring what they did, you start seeing common threads running through humanity. Like we have hands and feet, eyes and nose and ears and toes, head and shoulders, knees and toes, right? I used to love that thing when I was a kid. So the idea behind this is we have these things. There's a commonality through there. And when you look at these indigenous medicines, right? The Greeks had it, the Persians had it, the Chinese, the Egyptians. You see it in the Nordic cultures. You see it in the Irish cultures, in the American Indian cultures. They all had these little things that worked. Why would you then say, well, they work. We don't need to do that anymore because now we can do it with a drug. Here's your vaccine to get rid of that problem. Instead of saying, gosh, they had these great things. Why won't we teach some of these common sense things to everybody so you can take care of yourselves?
Because the drug makers wouldn't make any money.
Can't imagine that. Can't imagine that. So when you're looking at your thyroid problem, right, and you're coming back to this thing, it needs calcium, magnesium, and iodine. Now, here's the trick for thyroid. None of those things move on their own in the body. They all have to be transported or carried like an Uber or a Lyft driver, right? So you got to have an Uber or a Lyft for them. What's the Uber of the body, right? You start thinking, well, fat, fatty acids. So fat is the primary thing that carries those minerals to the thyroid. Without proper fat digestion, fat utilization, you're not going to get it there. Doesn't matter how much you take, it's just not going to get there. It's like throwing a quarter on the floor, coming back in 10 years and going, why is the quarter still sitting there? It can't move. It has to have a helper, right? So then how would you know if you're fat deficient? You'd have fertility issues. Dry skin issues is a big one for fatty acids. Stiff, sore, achy joints for no reason. Arthritis, anyone? Right? Maybe even heart problems. You ever wonder why they give you fish oil for heart problems when they tell you that fatty acids are what cause heart problems? I don't know. Made me wonder. Made me wonder since the time I was a kid. I thought they're going to give you fat to help your heart because fat caused your heart problem. Doesn't seem like a logical theory to me. I don't know. Then once it gets to that thyroid, it has to be held there. Something's got to glue it in place. Protein is the glue of the body. Protein holds those things there. So now you got to digest protein properly. How would you know if you didn't? Cold hands and feet, anyone? Moist, damp, sweaty hands and feet, anyone? Those are the big tells for protein deficiency. You don't have to have, oh, I broke my leg. You can have little subtle tells before you break your leg, before the bones give way. You get these little tells. Oh, my hands are always cold. I don't know why. My feet are always clammy and wet and damp. My socks. That's what's protein deficient. I swell. Can't get my rings off at the end of the day. Welcome to protein problems. If protein holds those minerals together and creates the hormone that the thyroid produces. So now all of a sudden you've got this little factory that says, well, I can't get any coal to fire the power plant. Or I'm getting the coal, but I have no way to get the power out of the plant. We just keep charging and charging and charging, and it grows and grows and grows, and all of a sudden, dysfunction. And so what do? Here's your thyroid med. And if we're lucky, here's your armor, your natural thyroid med. Is anyone fixing why it went bad? It's an endocrine system, a glandular system that has hundreds of other parts. And I will guarantee you, you will never see a thyroid problem in the human body that doesn't have other glands involved. They're all in the same cul-de-sac, all neighbors. One person's house is on fire, everybody else is watching theirs. Something's going on next door.